How to make a market position from a hard problem. Lessons from a charity that runs like a hedge fund. The Soft Power Brief Q1 report lands this week. It tracks 22 organizations that have turned hard problems into defensible market positions. Rather than chasing grants, they've done this by building models that make solving the problem cheaper than maintaining the status quo. The same logic is available to any leader serious about solving billion-person problems commercially. Manoush Shafiq, former deputy MD of the IMF, former president of Colombia and the LSE, published Development Without Aid last year in Project Syndicate. Shafiq argues that new conditions demand a new global development architecture. Many leaders already accept that. The Q1 report starts where her piece stops, with what that shift actually looks like in operating models, unit economics, and market positions. The stress test arrived in January 2025. Tens of billions of dollars in development funding withdrew overnight. It surfaced a specific set of models that had never been dependent on that architecture in the first place. In 2026, that distinction is now a market position. One Acre Fund is a clear example. Across East and Southern Africa, One Acre Fund has maintained loan repayment rates around 95 to 99%, with organization-wide repayment typically 97% or higher, and farmers increasing their farm income by roughly 35 to 40% on supported land even after program costs. Its seasonal loan model lets farmers repay over the harvest cycle, so repayments help finance the next season's inputs. Economically, it behaves far more like a lean financial services platform than a traditional charity. That is the edge the brief is interested in, organizations that use three calculations to create structural advantages their competitors cannot copy. They know the crossover point, where their solution is now cheaper than the system's cost of doing nothing, and can price against that gap. They've mapped choke points and routed around institutional gatekeepers, recovering distribution, data, and pricing power. They've designed for the voltage test, so a competent team in another geography can run the model without the founder, which is what makes it financeable at scale. This logic has always been available in theory. What has changed is that it is now executable. Solution costs have fallen off a curve. High-resolution satellite imagery that once cost hundreds of dollars per square kilometre is now available for a few dollars per square kilometre from commercial providers such as Skywatch and G-Opera. AI-enabled workflows are cutting document and review costs by well over 40 to 60% in real deployments, turning what used to be six-figure processes into a fraction of the original spend. Digital identity verification, once priced in the tens of dollars per manual check, is converging toward sub-dollar mass-scale verification as the market matures. Simultaneously, the financing mechanisms that can contract against verified outcomes, development impact bonds and other results-based instruments, results-based health financing, asset-based revolving loan structures for smallholders, and carbon markets that pay against measured emission reductions are more mature and more accessible than at any previous moment. In most hard problem spaces, the crossover point has already been crossed. The window is open. It will not stay open indefinitely. The Soft Power Brief Q1 report is asking what this logic would look like in your balance sheet or in the decision you have been postponing because the numbers were not yet clear enough to move. Once you can show in numbers that fixing the problem is cheaper than maintaining the status quo, you are no longer pitching a mission. You are presenting an investment case to commercial capital, to development finance, to governments under pressure to do more with less. Or you are presenting it to yourself as proof that this is where your next 5 years belong. If you're a leader working on a hard problem and want the Q1 brief, reply to this note. If you want to work through the three calculations on your specific model, that conversation also starts with a reply.